Hello beautiful people, it is a stunning day here in Perth. It's pretty warm, there's lots been happening in the garden. I have so much to catch you up on, so we're going to take a look at what I've been doing in terms of maintenance, planting, all the things. So after you get up to speed on what's been happening in the garden, join me back here later on in the video because we have lots of things to plant. These really need to go in the garden. So these were supposed to be edamame beans, but they're looking very much like a pea. So I'm not sure what they are now, but we're going to plant them anyway. They're definitely pea and not a bean. I was really hoping to grow edamame, but I guess we're going to plant them and see what they are. So stay tuned, it's all happening. Alright, so my first job was to empty out the compost bins, get all that delicious soil out and into my garden beds so that I can replenish my gardens for the next season of planting. Especially because a lot of my gardens are in containers, it's really important that I put back those nutrients into the garden that my winter plants have used up. And also because I need to take out some of my winter crops still, and I don't have room to put them into the compost bin until I get all of the soil out. So getting the soil out and putting it into the garden beds, I'm sort of just putting it around the plants as I go. Then once I use up all of the compost in that compost bin, I start putting some of the leaf matter in there. So I can tidy up these garden beds and actually have somewhere to put the greens, because I haven't been able to put them in the compost bin because otherwise it would have been harder to get the soil out. So clean slate, empty compost bins, I can now fill them up with all the weeds, all the dead leaves and all the plants that I'm taking out of my garden beds. The next job that I needed to do was just clean up my seed tray area. So a lot of these seeds are ones that I planted pre-winter and they've just been sitting out, so it's just dead soil, it's not living, so I'm just putting it in the compost. My poor New Zealand yams died while I was in New Zealand, funny enough, so I managed to pull these little baby ones and I'm going to keep them and try and regrow them next season. So I do have two compost bins. I have found them both for free online or on the side of the road. So my next job will be to empty this one out the front. But for now, I need to tidy up this mess. This is runner grass. This is kikuyu. This part of my edible food forest is not densely populated, so it still gets a whole lot of weeds, whereas the rest of my food forest fence garden, it has so much coverage that the weeds don't really grow. And then these things, oh my gosh, every time I think it's a snake. What they actually are legless lizards, and they look like snakes, they move like snakes, and they give me a heart attack every time. Hence why I do wear gumboots and protective gloves, even though a snake could still bite me. I am very cautious. The joys of gardening in Australia. Okay, so I've been thinking about doing this for a while now, and I've started transitioning over the last, I don't know, probably 6 months ago, to remove my rosemary bush. Now, this has been a hard decision, but because it does bring so many bees to my garden, and I love using rosemary, and it's obviously thriving, like I cut it back all the time, but it's just taking up really valuable space that it doesn't need to. I could have that growing somewhere else. So today I'm going to be removing it, but I've already got a backup plan. So down here, you can see over the back there is some rosemary here, and that is because I pushed a big branch down, covered it with soil, and it has now rooted. So I have rosemary already growing here in the corner, and I can remove this big one. And now I'm going to plant another fruit tree here because I think that will be a lot more of a productive space than having a huge rosemary bush. So down here is the branch that I pushed over, and so it's already pretty big. I could be, harvesting this rosemary straight away. And that is the big one. It goes over the fence. I cut it back all the time. And we can see under here
oh, you probably can't really see, but there's some roots. Those are roots and it's solid in the ground. So all I have to do is cut one of those main stems off and I've basically bridged my rosemary. So where my rosemary plant is, I am going to plant my kumquat, and I've had that in a pot for, I don't know, 4 years or more, and so I'm going to put it here where the rosemary is, and it will be able to get a lot bigger, thrive, and kumquats are really prolific, so I'm excited to get a whole lot more of those. Plus that frees up a big pot that the kumquat is in, so I can get another something growing. Okay, so it's Monday. It's not a very nice day. It's pretty windy. It's raining on and off, but I still have lots to do in the garden, so I'm gonna get out there, finish weeding, empty the compost bins, and plant a few plants. Let's go. Okay, so I'm taking a little bit of a break and I'm going to plant some seeds. So I didn't have any zucchini seeds, so I have picked up some seeds from my friends at Down to Earth, and I'm going to plant these. So I've got the zucchini black beauty, I've got the golden, I'm probably not going to plant all of these, but we'll see. Lebanese grey, and then I've got a couple others. That one's like a stripy one, another pale green one. I've got some spaghetti squash. I've also got some other squash that I might plant as well. I still need to get some pumpkin seeds, so I've got a couple of pumpkin seeds. This one is the red curry, and then I also have one that is sort of like a jack-o'-lantern orange pumpkin, but I do want to get a really big one, so I need to get either the Jarrahdale. I'm thinking I'm going to get the Jarrahdale pumpkin seeds, so I can grow some really large pumpkins. But yeah, let's go plant some seeds. I quite often listen to podcasts when I am doing things in the garden. I just like the multitasking of it, and especially if it's something that I don't want to do, like weeding, I will often put on a podcast. But these seeds are zucchinis, and it's time to plant zucchinis. Summer is definitely a time of abundance for zucchini, so I'm not going to plant too many, but I have got quite a few varieties, so I'm going to try them out. And the snails have been wild in my garden right now, so I am a little bit cautious that I might need to have a few extra plants in case they get eaten by the snails. So this is my little outdoor greenhouse. This is our undercover area, and it's got these blinds, so it's really nice and warm and toasty in here during the day. So I have my seeds out here during the day, and I'm bringing them inside at night because it's still quite cold at night, and they're only babies. Okay, so we interrupt this garden maintenance because exciting things are happening in this corner of the garden, and that is my Feijoas are flowering. So I've got two Feijoa trees. I've got this one here, which is massive, and a smaller one over here, and they are my pride and joy. I am a Kiwi, so I grew up eating these, and they were one of the first things I planted here at my house. And after 5 or 6 years now, they are producing a lot more Feijoas each year. So I'm so excited for this year's Feijoa harvest. So this is one quick tip, this might not be the same for everyone, but in my garden, lavender flowers at the same time as my Feijoas. So I have that planted in between both my Feijoa plants, and the bees are absolutely humming and thriving on this lavender, which means that they are more likely to pollinate my Feijoas and I can get bigger and better harvests. Okay, so it's that time of year again. It is starting to heat up. My gardens are topped up with compost from my compost bins, and I've even laid down some of the leaves that have from some of the plants that are old now, some of the winter crops. So they're full of extra nutrition, and now I need to cover them and prep for summer, because although I'm wearing a jumper, it's actually really starting to warm up here in Perth. So I'm out in the garden, it's pretty early still, and I have got some mulch, and I'm going to just start mulching all my garden beds. And it's so important that, especially in dry, hot weather, we mulch our gardens to make sure that our soil's not exposed to the harsh sunlight, because it's going to dry it out, and we want our soil to be living and thriving, because that's what's going to help our plants survive. So we need to take care of our soil, if not more than our plants, because if our soil is alive and thriving, then our plants will just grow all on their own. So big job today. I've got pea straw, that is what I am using in my garden. I'm using that on my veggie garden, and then on the fruit trees I will put probably more a bark mulch, because bark mulch breaks down and has fungal properties which the fruit trees love, and this pea straw does have a little bit of nutrition in it when it does break down, and it's much easier to get around the smaller plants. But I haven't done a lot of my planting yet. My seeds are still little, so I don't have to be as careful going around the plants. So this is a really good time for me to get everything mulched before I'm trying to put little seedlings in. Alright, we're back with another podcast while I do this mulching job. Some of these plants are going to be still taken out yet, like a lot of those brassicas will need to come out. As you'll see, I'm starting to pull them out. Some I'm still going to let go because they're just about ready for harvest. We're basically going into survival mode soon. Perth summers are extremely hot. We have very dry weather here as well, so as much fibre as we can add into the soil as possible. Our soil is sand, my soil is sand, so I'm constantly trying to add fibre back into my soil to help with that sandy soil, and that's in the way of compost and green matter, organic matter. So I don't have a compost bin at the front at the moment, and so I'm just putting all my vegetable scraps or things that I'm pulling from the front gardens into this window garden and just laying it down before I put mulch on top. Otherwise I have to traipse it back around the back to the compost bins, and I really just want to put it straight here in the garden. That's another way that you can add organic matter back into the soil without having compost bins. So eventually I will get some system out here in the front yard, but for now this is going to work. I'm not going to be planting a whole lot of little seedlings in this garden, so there's only going to be a few bigger plants, so it's not going to matter, and that will break down and add nutrients back into the soil. So this hollyhock has been blown over in the wind, so I'm going to tie that up. And there's beautiful poppies down here. Look at these. We've got some chard still going strong here. We've got some New Zealand spinach that is starting to take off. That will be a really nice edible ground cover. Still plenty of food in these garden beds, even though there is lots of space. So time to get these planted. And look, there's even some tomatoes from last season popping up in here, so once these get a little bit bigger I'll transplant them out and put them in other areas of the garden. This one was also a volunteer tomato that has been thriving, so it's got a few little flowers on it next to some chard. So we've got a few things that are left over. This is a sacrificial kale. It is getting absolutely hammered, but it has meant that a lot of the other things have been left alone. So I'm sort of leaving that there for all the bugs to hang out, and hopefully they'll leave everything else alone, because it's working so far. Like, things are looking pretty good, not too many holes. This poor tomato did get blown over in the wind, so the stalk was damaged, but I've tied it up now and I'm hoping that it will pull through. I'm sure it'll be fine. But now to fill these gaps. Plenty of gaps in this one. So this one, I don't have any tomatoes in here yet, so probably going to put zucchini, because that will take up quite a bit of space. And again, this one here, I don't have any tomatoes. Oh yes, I do. I have one tomato here, and plenty of room over there for a zucchini. And then this needs to come out. This is well overdue to be eaten and taken out, so get that done. That'll free up more space. This garden's pretty empty as well. We've got a couple tomatoes in here. This is the black truffle, and then this one over here. So we've got Egyptian walking onions in here, some chives, plenty of space, so we can plant that out. This needs to come out. All my brassicas are going to come out now. Alright, so now we're up to speed on the rearranging, the mulching. The gardens are looking really good. There's heaps of white mulberries still, and let's see if we can find some snacks. They're actually quite hard to see because they are white. Here we go. So the white mulberry is really sweet. It tastes a little bit like honey. Completely different to the red mulberries. So good. So I might see what I can harvest from this and then make something, because I've never actually made anything with these. I normally just eat them straight off the tree. They are super sweet and delicious, but I'd love to try making something with them. So we'll harvest some of those. The guava right here, this is the strawberry guava, and it is out in flower, man. There is so many flowers on here. This is going to be loaded in fruit, so hopefully I can get these before the parrots do, because last year the parrots found it. And I don't really net things in my garden, it's just personal preference. As long as I get some food, then I'm happy to share it with some of the locals. So, oh my gosh, look, the mulberry tree is actually humongous. So we've got strawberry guavas coming really soon, thousands. Mulberries, which I'm harvesting and eating at the moment. Look, there's another big one. They go sort of pink when they're ready. So yeah, they've got a little pink tinge to them when they are ripe, and they just fall off the tree, so I do have to eat them pretty quick. This is another guava, but it is not flowering yet. This is the Hawaiian guava. The elder flower is flowering still, so I'm going to harvest some of these, and I'm going to put them in some alcohol to make a essence, so an elderflower essence. And then we've got my Feijoas. They are looking amazing. They are loaded in flowers. I've never seen this many flowers on them. So I've got the two trees here, one and this other massive one behind me here, and these are another garden snack. The petals on the Feijoa are edible. They're really sweet and delicious. Gosh, they're so sweet. They're just like sugar. I also want to harvest some of these because it's not actually taking away from the fruit, because I'm not harvesting the whole flower, just the petals, and they fall off anyway, and the birds have been eating them, so may as well try, see what we can do. I think that will be super fun. And then over here we have the beautiful hollyhock, which I am not named after. I am named after the very spiky holly tree that is planted in Kew Gardens, but I mean, I'll claim it, they're beautiful. And then here we've got obviously the kumquat, which we planted and it has taken off. Since I've put it here, there's so much new growth on it. It's got lots of mulch. I put heaps of compost in the hole when I dug it, and I think it's going to be really happy here. And hopefully this fence will be gone, just like the rest of my garden. Alright, so this is the pumpkin patch, and I've put a lot more perennials in here, so it's not just pumpkins. We have a few pumpkins popping up, and some of these are compost volunteers, some I planted. All these little edible flowers, these are all just wild from last year. And look at these beauties. These purple artichokes, I'm letting them go to flower. So, they'll bring in lots of bees, and next year I'll eat them. This, I'm pretty sure, is a type of purple spinach. It's all gone to flower now, so I'm going to save these seeds. Look at this beautiful hollyhock. So we'll be getting lots more hollyhock soon. Another pumpkin. That's another artichoke. That's a green one. So that's going to take up this whole space too. And then this space will hopefully be really low maintenance and provide food all year round. So we've got some New Zealand spinach down here. I've planted it in the shadiest part so that it doesn't cook over summer. Fingers crossed. We've got some more pumpkins that I've planted down here. Another hollyhock. Silver beet. Lots more edible flowers. Some kales that really need to come out now. These are just attracting all the bugs. As you can see, the brassicas are just getting nailed. Oh, look, there's a culprit right there. But yeah, this garden bed is a work in progress. It's the pumpkin patch because it is large and I can send them off down the driveway if they need to. But yeah, getting something set up so that it provides food all year round, not just pumpkins, would be great. So the main reason that I'm pulling all these brassicas out and I'm not trying to ward off the pests or do any natural pest management is because it's just not worth it. The white caterpillars are completely out in force. It's just their time of year to thrive. So instead what I do is I just don't grow brassicas when it heats up in this warm spring, summer time of year. I just utilize that space for better things, because instead of trying to kill all the bugs and keep them alive, it's much easier for me to just grow brassicas and kale in winter when the bugs aren't as full on, and then in summer take them out and grow all my summer crops in here.